The year was 1702, midnight on a Jamaican plantation. The cane fields hissed in the wind, sparks leaping like fireflies turned to demons. Flames clawed at the great house, timbers groaning as if the earth itself cried out. A lullaby drifted through the smoke, soft and broken, as if sung by a mother walking through ashes. Screams tore the night. Wood cracked. Chains rattled in the distance. Someone was running, but not away. Toward the fire, no names, no faces. Only fire, blood, and silence between screams. And in the silence, a whisper, "She will burn as she burned me." The sun bled down on the cane fields, heavy and merciless. The air tasted of sweat and sugar, thick with the stench of molasses vats left to rot. Flies swarmed the sweat-soaked backs of men bent under whips, the crack echoing like thunder over the endless green. Samuel Price straightened for a moment, his back crooking to one side as if it would never heal. Rusted shackles still clung to his ankles, broken open long ago, but never removed. They jingled when he shifted. "Don't stop," hissed a voice near him. It was Ellen, her hands stained with the juice of the cane, eyes darting toward the overseer in the distance. She hummed under her breath, soft like a lullaby that floated on the air but never quite landed. Samuel let out a dry laugh. "That song again, Ellen? You think singing will soften their whips?" Her lips barely moved. "No, but it softens the chains inside." He hacked at the cane, sweat rolling down his scarred chest. "Chains don't soften. They rust, they bite deeper. I've worn mine too long." Ellen glanced at the distant road. "They say in Port Royal men rise up, took knives to their masters. Some say the French whisper rebellion into the ears of slaves." Samuel's eyes narrowed. "Rumors, and rumors get men hanged. Or worse," her humming faltered. "Don't you ever dream, Samuel?" "I dream of water," he muttered, swinging the blade into another stalk. "Cool water, back without pain. Dreams ain't freedom, Ellen." A cry went up. The path cleared as four men carried a sedan chair through the cane. The woman within was dressed in ivory silk, the hem trailing like spilled milk, unsullied by dirt or sweat. Mistress Margaret Whitfield's eyes were pale as glass, sharp enough to slice through the field without a word. She carried a silver rosary in her gloved hand, the beads clinking with each sway. Ellen lowered her gaze at once, her humming silenced mid-note. Samuel forced his body down, stooping lower than his broken back allowed. Margaret's voice cut through the humid air. "Why are they so slow today?" One of the carriers puffed. "The heat, mistress." Her hand lashed out, the rosary striking his cheek. "The sun is not an excuse. God does not excuse sloth." The carriers bowed lower, teeth clenched and trudged on. Samuel muttered beneath his breath, just loud enough for Ellen. "God must be tired of excuses then." Her elbow nudged him sharply. "Careful." Margaret's gaze swept the rows. For a heartbeat, her pale eyes landed on Samuel's rusted shackles. Her lip curled in disgust, then in amusement. She raised her chin, dismissing him as less than dirt, and disappeared into the shadow of the house. The air grew heavy again. Ellen's hum returned, faint and trembling. Samuel bent low, voice like gravel. "One day, someone's gonna silence her. Not with song, with fire." Ellen shook her head, eyes distant. "Then pray the fire doesn't burn us all." The ocean never forgot, even now. When Lucia closed her eyes in the humid dark of the quarters, she could still hear it, the slap of waves against wood, the groan of a ship that carried chains instead of cargo. Her wrist itched at the scar, thick and raised, where the iron had rubbed her skin raw as a child. She was no more than 10 when the raiders stormed her village in West Africa. Smoke, screams, the lullaby of her mother cut short by the crack of muskets. On the ship, she had clutched that lullaby in her chest like a hidden knife. Her mother's voice whispering through memory, "Sleep, little one. Even the chains will sleep." Now, in Jamaica, the chains never slept. The cane rats scurried through the corners of the quarters. The smell of sweat, milk, and smoke filled the air as she bent over her daughter's cradle, if a wooden box with straw could be called that. Amara stirred, a soft whimper rising. Lucia stroked the child's tiny fingers, already scarred from labor too young to remember. "Hush, Amara," she whispered, voice like silk pulled tight. Your mama will keep the fire away. I swear it. Ellen, sitting nearby, hummed one of her endless songs. That baby cries too much, Lucia. Mistress Margaret doesn't like noise in the night. Lucia's jaw tightened. Then let her come down here and hush her herself. The door creaked. Voices echoed down the wooden hall. A click of heels. The smell of perfume. Roses cut too fresh, mixed with the salt of sweat. Mistress Margaret Whitfield descended into the quarters, lantern in hand. Her silk gown brushed the floor, the hem stained faintly from her earlier walk. In her gloved hand swung a silver rosary, polished so bright it gleamed in the firelight. The women lowered their heads, eyes fixed on the dirt. All but Lucia. Margaret's pale eyes found her at once. Is that noise coming from you? Lucia didn't flinch. She rocked the cradle once more. She's a child, mistress. She has no sense of time. Margaret stepped forward, the rosary clinking as she twined it between her fingers. A child, no sense of time. Do you think God excuses disorder, girl? Ellen hissed. Lucia, bow your head. But Lucia's gaze stayed steady, fixed on the woman above her. God made her lungs to cry. He'll forgive her. Margaret's lips curved into a cold smile. She crouched, silk whispering against wood, and stared down into the cradle. Amara's tiny chest heaved with soft hiccups. Margaret's hand hovered above the child's face, gloved fingers grazing the air like a predator considering prey. She has your eyes, Margaret murmured. Stubborn, rebellious, dangerous. Lucia's hand shot out, shielding the baby. The scar on her wrist gleamed white against her dark skin. Margaret's laugh was soft, cruel. Yes, you will be a problem. She rose, the rosary swinging. But problems can be solved. Discipline is a mercy after all. Ask your God. She turned, her skirts trailing, and disappeared into the stairwell. The lantern glow faded with her. Only then did the room breathe again. Ellen whispered, shaking her head. Girl, you'll get us all killed. Lucia pulled Amara closer, pressing her lips to the child's forehead. Her whisper was meant for the baby alone. No, Ellen, she won't kill me. Not before I kill her. The baby stirred, and Lucia rocked the cradle with a steady rhythm, humming her mother's lullaby. But this time, the song no longer sounded like comfort. It sounded like prophecy. Later in the fields, Margaret's shadow fell long across the workers. She liked to stand at the edge of the rows, her rosary swinging, her voice dripping with piety. You are blessed, she told them, pale face shining with sweat she pretended not to feel. Your chains bring you closer to Christ. Every lash, every burden is a gift of salvation. Samuel, hacking at Cain nearby, muttered under his breath. Then let her take the lashes, see how close she feels. Lucia, gripping her basket, whispered so only Ellen could hear. A gift of salvation, she says. Then let salvation burn with her. Ellen's hum wavered, then died. She gave Lucia a look, half fear, half warning. But Lucia's eyes never left the woman in white, rosary gleaming like a chain of silver fire. That night, as Amara slept, Lucia traced the scar on her wrist with her thumb. She whispered the vow into the darkness, into the straw, into the silence that pressed on every chain in the quarters. I will never let my child grow up in chains. Not while I still have breath, not while fire can still burn. The lullaby began again, soft as smoke. But underneath there was something else. A rhythm like footsteps marching, like drums in the distance. Like war Sunday brought no rest. The slaves were marched to the chapel at the edge of the cane fields, the air inside heavy with sweat and beeswax candles. Mistress Margaret Whitfield sat in the front pew, ivory lace collar tight against her throat, silver rosary dangling like a weapon. Lucia stood at the back, Amara swaddled against her chest. Ellen hummed low, a tune swallowed by the priest's Latin chant. Father Andre's voice filled the chapel, rich and measured. The Frenchman's accent smoothed every word, though his eyes betrayed unease as he looked over the rows of bowed heads. Margaret rose. Her silks rustled like dry leaves. She turned, pale eyes sweeping the congregation. God ordains every station of life, she declared. He made masters and servants. He made women to obey men and heathens to serve Christians. To resist his order is to resist God himself. Murmurs of "Yes, mistress" rippled through the room. Heads bent lower. Lucia's jaw tightened. Amara stirred in her arms, a small cry cutting the silence. Margaret's gaze snapped to her. "Even your child dishonors the house of God." Lucia raised her chin, voice calm but sharp. "God made her lungs. He hears her as well as you," a gasp. The slaves held their breath. Margaret's smile spread slow and cruel. "Bold-tongued girl. The devil must whisper in your ear." She stepped closer, touching the child's cheek with a gloved finger. "Pray he spares this one." Lucia's scarred hand curled protectively around Amara. She did not bow. Father Andre cleared his throat, voice uneasy. "The scriptures also say, mistress, that children are a blessing." Margaret's glance cut him short. He lowered his eyes, retreating into the litany. The service ended in heavy silence. That evening, as the quarters settled, Lucia found herself near the chapel door. Father Andre lingered, robes faintly stained with candle smoke. "You should be careful," he whispered in French-tinged English. "Your defiance paints a mark on you." Lucia shifted Amara on her hip. "I already wear a mark." She showed the scar at her wrist. "It burns still." Andre's gaze softened. From his pocket, he pulled a scrap of parchment, folded tight, and a stub of charcoal. He pressed them into her hand. "For your daughter," he said quietly. "Write her name, a prayer, a song. Let her see that words can outlive chains." Lucia's fingers trembled as she took the gifts. Her eyes met his, suspicious, then grateful. "Why risk this?" He hesitated. "Because I write the truth. One day someone must read it." Days later, the overseer returned. Thomas Calhoun walked through the fields with his whip coiled at his side, whiskey on his breath. His hat shadowed eyes that never softened. He stopped at the edge of the row where Lucia bent, Amara strapped against her back. "Lucia," he drawled, tongue thick. "The mistress says you're too proud. Pride needs breaking." She kept her hands busy, stripping cane. "I'm broken enough." He stepped closer, the stench of drink rolling off him. His fingers brushed her arm. "Not yet. You've got fire left. I can take it out of you." "Easy." Lucia froze. The rustle of cane hid Ellen's gasp a few rows down. She straightened, eyes locking with his. "You touch me and I'll bite deeper than your whip." Calhoun's grin twisted. He leaned close, breath hot against her ear. "No one resists me for long." Her hands tightened on the cane knife. For a heartbeat, she imagined the blade sliding across his throat. But Amara shifted against her back, and she forced herself still. Calhoun laughed low, stepping back. "Soon enough," he muttered, and vanished into the green. Ellen rushed to her side. "Girl, you'll bring his wrath down on us?" Lucia's voice was steady, cold. "Better his wrath than his hands." She touched her daughter's back, felt the tiny heartbeat. Then under her breath, she whispered the vow again, this time sharper, edged with steel. "I will never let her grow in chains. Not his, not hers, not any." The lullaby rose once more, soft but burning. Carrying across the field like a secret fire, no whip could silence. The dining hall glowed with candlelight. The smell of roasted pork and spiced rum masking the sweat of the kitchen slaves. Silver platters clinked as servants hurried, their eyes downcast, their movements precise. At the head of the table sat Henry Whitfield, the master of the plantation. His powdered wig was slightly askew, his waistcoat undone at the neck. A brandy glass trembled in his hand. His face was florid, half drunk already, his gaze drifting over the feast without interest. Beside him, Mistress Margaret was all poise and silk, her silver rosary resting in her lap. Her pale eyes scanned the room like a hawk. Lucia stood at the far side, her daughter Amara cradled against her shoulder as she poured wine into goblets. The child stirred, restless, a soft whimper escaping her lips. Margaret's fork clattered against her plate. The room stilled. "That noise," she said. "Again." Lucia adjusted the baby, whispering, "Hush, little one." But the child cried louder, thin and piercing, carrying through the hall. Margaret rose slowly, her chair scraping across the polished wood. She moved with deliberate grace, each step ringing against the floor. The servants froze where they stood, trays suspended in trembling hands. She approached Lucia. Her voice was calm, honeyed. The supper table is sacred. Does your child not know reverence? Lucia kept her eyes down, rocking Amara gently. She is but a babe, mistress. She knows only hunger and sleep. Margaret smiled, cruel and cold. Then let me teach her discipline. From the table, Henry slurred. Margaret, let it be. She's just a child. Her gaze sliced through him. Weakness, Henry. That is why this house rots. Discipline keeps order. She seized a taper from the nearest candelabrum, the flame flickering, casting her face in gold and shadow. Slowly, deliberately, she lowered it toward Amara's tiny hand. Lucia's body tensed. Please, but the flame touched flesh. The baby screamed, shrill animal unbearable. The smell of burning skin filled the hall. Lucia's knees buckled, but she caught the child, clutching her hand away from the fire. The skin blistered instantly, red swelling into white. Margaret's expression did not change. She set the candle back in its holder. Now she knows silence. The room was frozen. Servants stood like statues, their eyes wide, their lips sealed. None dared speak. Henry poured another glass of brandy, his hand shaking. Enough, Margaret. Enough. His voice was a whisper, not a command. Lucia pressed her lips to her daughter's tiny hand, rocking her gently, whispering through the sobs. She burned you, child. One day I will burn her. The words slipped like smoke, barely audible, yet heavy enough to shake the air. Margaret turned away, her skirts whispering against the floor, satisfied. Return the brat to the quarters. Perhaps she'll think twice before crying at my table again. The servants bowed their heads, carrying trays back into the kitchen. Silence followed them, the weight of what they had witnessed sealing their mouths. In the scullery, Ellen began to hum, soft and trembling. Not her usual lullaby, but a darker tune, one carried from Africa, a mourning song for the living who carried death inside them. Lucia sat alone in the corner, Amara's blistered hand wrapped in a scrap of cloth, rocking her with steady rhythm. The song and the baby's whimpers mingled, filling the kitchen like smoke, like prophecy. For the first time, the fire inside her burned hotter than the fire in her scar. And this time, it did not whisper of survival. It roared of vengeance. Night thickened over the plantation, moonlight swallowed by clouds. In the slave quarters, breath and snores filled the air, but Lucia's eyes were wide open. Her daughter whimpered beside her. She kissed Amara's brow, then slipped silently into the dark. Behind the cane sheds, fireflies flickered like sparks caught between worlds. Kwaku was waiting. He was a mountain of a man, his skin carved with tribal scars across his chest and arms, marks of wars fought before chains. He crouched low, a coal ember burning in a cracked shell before him. You asked for fire, he said, voice deep as drums. Here it is, Lucia knelt, eyes on the ember. I asked for vengeance. Fire's the only tongue she'll understand. Kwaku's lips curved into a grim smile. He sprinkled crushed herbs over the ember, releasing a sharp scent that clawed the throat. This is no simple burn. Fire is spirit. It cleanses. It remembers. You must be bound to it, or it will consume you too. He nicked his palm with a sharpened bone, blood dripping into the ember. The coal flared brighter. He held the bone to her. Lucia pressed the scar on her wrist against it, reopening old pain. Blood welled. She let it fall. The ember hissed, glowed red. Kwaku's eyes shone in the dark. Now it knows your name. Days bled into weeks. Preparations wove themselves into daily labor. Sarah, the mixed blood servant, lingered near the kitchens. Her pale skin marked her apart, daughter of a master's secret sin. She carried herself with a nervous grace, torn between two worlds. Lucia cornered her one night as she scrubbed pewter plates. You see everything, Lucia whispered. You know her cruelty. Will you stand with me? Sarah's hands stilled in the water, trembling. If she discovers us, we hang, or worse. My blood won't save me. Your silence won't save you either, Lucia shot back. She will use you, then discard you. You know it. Sarah's eyes flicked to the door. She whispered, what do you want of me? Lucia's gaze burned steady. Candles, oil, cloth, small things. Things she won't miss until it's too late. Sarah's breath caught, but she nodded once, lips pale. I will try. It was Jonas who nearly ruined everything. The stable boy was young, his face still soft, his eyes too wide for the world he lived in. One evening, while fetching water, he stumbled upon Lucia and Kwaku whispering behind the cane sheds. His bucket clattered against the ground. "What are you doing?" His voice cracked. Lucia froze. Kwaku's hand went to his knife. Jonas swallowed hard, eyes darting between them. "If they find you sneaking..." Lucia stepped forward, her shadow long in the moonlight. Her gaze locked on him, cold, unflinching. "If you speak of this, Jonas, the fire will come for you first. Do you understand?" The boy's breath hitched. I don't want trouble." "Then keep your tongue," she said softly, leaning close, voice like smoke. "Or you'll taste ash in your sleep." Jonas nodded frantically, scooping up his bucket, backing away. Kwaku grunted low. "He's a weak reed. He'll bend whichever way the wind blows." Lucia's eyes narrowed. "Then we must make sure the wind favors us." Suspicion stalked them. One afternoon, Thomas Calhoun burst into the storage shed, the stink of whiskey on his breath. His whip trailed behind him like a serpent. Lucia and Sarah had just hidden a bundle of oil-soaked rags under a barrel. Calhoun's eyes scanned the room, narrowing. "What's that smell? Oil?" Lucia forced herself calm. "From the lanterns, overseer. You know the store always reeks of it." He stepped closer, squinting, his hand brushing the barrel where the rags lay hidden. His grin spread slow. "Careful, girl. Fire's dangerous. Burns houses down. Burns people too." Lucia held his stare, unblinking. "Perhaps that's why God made it. To punish the wicked." For a moment, silence. Then Calhoun chuckled darkly, backing away. "You've got a tongue like a knife. Sooner or later it'll cut your throat." He left, the whip dragging across the floor. Sarah slumped against the wall, trembling. "You tempt death," she whispered. Lucia pressed her hand over Amara's memory, the burned scar. "No, I prepare it." Even Mistress Margaret's eyes grew sharp. She paced through the dining hall one evening, fingers sliding across the polished table, candles burning low in silver sticks. She stopped counting. "Where is the third candle?" she asked coldly. Servants froze. Sarah's heart pounded so loud it was nearly audible. Margaret's pale gaze swept the room. "Did someone steal from me?" Lucia stepped forward, steady. "The wick burned too low last night. It crumbled to ash." Margaret's eyes lingered on her, measuring. Then slowly she smiled. "Then let us hope no one here turns to ashes quickly." Her rosary clinked as she left. The room exhaled. Sarah whispered through clenched teeth. "One day she will see everything." Lucia's eyes glinted with fire. "One day she will see nothing at all." The night smelled of roasted pork and molasses. Lanterns swung from the verandas of the great house, spilling amber light across the manicured lawn. Musicians plucked fiddles, overseers laughed too loud, and goblets clinked with imported brandy. Inside, Margaret Whitfield glided among her guests. Silver rosary looped around her wrist, her smile sharp as glass. Henry, already sunk deep into his brandy, muttered greetings, but avoided her eyes. The servants moved like shadows, filling plates, refilling glasses, swallowing their silence. Lucia carried a tray of roasted fowl past Margaret's elbow. Her face betrayed nothing, but inside, the ember Kwaku had blessed burned steady. Later, when the feast had swelled into drunken song, Lucia slipped into the dark. She moved through the service halls, her feet silent on worn stone. The hidden bundles of oil-soaked cloth waited where Sarah had left them. One by one, she touched flame to them. The fire awoke with a whisper. It licked the walls like a serpent uncoiling. It crept along beams, tasted dry curtains, kissed the floor with sparks. Lucia's breath came slow. "Take her! Take everything!" Outside, the fiddles stuttered. Someone shouted, "Smoke!" Panic rippled. The overseers stumbled to their feet, overturning tables, their laughter curdling into curses. Flames crawled faster than feet could follow, racing toward the roof. Inside the kitchen, Ellen's lullaby broke into a scream. Pots clattered. Children wailed. Margaret, high above in her chamber, awoke to the hiss of fire at her door. She yanked it open. Heat surged in, searing her skin. "No!" she shrieked, staggering back. She clutched her rosary, pressing it hard into her palm until blood mingled with silver. The flames answered by leaping higher. In the courtyard, chaos reigned. "Water! Buckets!" cried Henry, stumbling drunkenly, brandy spilling down his shirt. His words drowned in the roar of fire. Thomas Calhoun stormed from the stables, whip in hand, his face gleaming with sweat. "Which one of you dogs started this?" he bellowed. His eyes scanned the slaves, who shrank from his gaze, but Kwaku did not shrink. He planted himself between the panicked slaves and the overseer, a burning brand in his fist. "They will not stop her," Kwaku growled to the trembling crowd. "Tonight is freedom's fire." Jonas ran from the shadows, face pale. He tugged at Calhoun's sleeve. "It was her. I heard them. Lucia, she lit it." Lucia froze where she stood, half hidden in the smoke. Her eyes met the boy's. He flinched, but the words were already out. Calhoun's grin spread feral.
"I knew it!"
"You'll pay, girl." He lunged forward. Kwaku roared, swinging the burning brand. Flames bit into Calhoun's shoulder. The overseer shrieked, the whip snapping wildly, tearing flesh. But Kwaku did not yield. He drove the brand into Calhoun's chest, the stench of burning flesh rising with the smoke. Calhoun's screams turned ragged, then silent. His body fell, consumed by fire, but the flames leapt onto Kwaku's arm, racing up his chest. He staggered, choking. "Lucia!" he gasped. "Finish it!" And then the fire swallowed him whole. The great house was collapsing. Timbers groaned, ash rained down like black snow. Servants poured into the yard, dragging children, clutching nothing else. Margaret stumbled from the upper floor, coughing, her dress alight. She clawed at the stair railing, eyes wild. Lucia stood at the base of the stairs, her face streaked with soot, scar burning bright on her wrist. Their eyes locked through the smoke. Margaret spat, voice raw, trembling with fury. You devil woman!" Lucia stepped closer, the flames illuminating her like a figure carved from fire. "No, I am the fire you lit," Margaret shrieked, lunging forward, rosary raised like a weapon. But the floor beneath her feet gave way. She crashed down, screaming into the inferno. Her silver rosary melted into her palm as her voice was consumed. The roof caved in with a roar. Sparks shot into the sky like stars breaking free. The fire spread to the cane fields, where dry stalks erupted into an ocean of flame. The slaves watched in silence, faces lit orange. Ellen held Amara tight against her chest, rocking, humming a broken lullaby beneath the roar. Henry fell to his knees in the mud, sobbing into his hands, useless, forgotten. Jonas trembled near the stables, watching the inferno devour the mistress he had betrayed, the overseer who had once whipped him bloody. His lips moved soundlessly, whispering a prayer or an apology. Lucia stood still, soot streaked across her face, the heat pressing against her skin. Around her, screams and chaos blurred. She heard only the crackle of fire and the echo of her daughter's cry. Kwaku's words thundered in her memory. "Now it knows your name." And indeed, the fire called her name as it rose higher, devouring everything Margaret Whitfield had ever owned. Lucia did not run. She did not beg. She watched. She watched until the house was ash, until Margaret was nothing but smoke, until silence fell heavier than chains. Dawn came pale and grey, heavy with the stench of ash. The plantation stood in ruins, its cane fields blackened, its great house nothing but charred timbers and smouldering stone. Buzzards circled lazily above the wreckage. Margaret Whitfield's corpse lay half-covered in soot. Her once white skin was blistered and split. Her silver rosary fused into her palm like molten punishment. Servants who had feared her now turned their eyes away, whispering. Henry Whitfield staggered across the mud, brandy still staining his shirt, hair wild. He fell to his knees before her body. "Margaret!" His voice cracked. "My wife! My God, what have they done?" No one answered. The soldiers arrived by midday, red coats stark against the grey ash. Their boots crunched across the wreckage. They barked orders, herding the enslaved into lines, their muskets gleaming in the weak sunlight. Lucia stood among them, wrists shackled, her scar raw and new. She did not flinch when they bound her tighter. Jonas stepped forward, trembling, face pale, words spilling too fast. I saw it. She set the fire, I warned Overseer Calhoun, but it was too late. The soldiers seized on his words. You'll testify in Kingston, one barked, hauling him aside. Jonas stared at the ground, unable to meet Lucia's eyes. Kwaku's ashes still smoldered where he had fallen. No one spoke his name. Kingston's courthouse was a stone fortress, its walls cold and echoing. Shackled prisoners were dragged inside, chains clattering like grim music. The gallery was packed, planters in powdered wigs, merchants reeking of tobacco, wives fanning themselves against the heat. They had come to see vengeance dressed as justice. The judge sat high, wig powdered white as bone. His eyes narrowed at the accused. Lucia was dragged to the center, chains heavy on her ankles. She stood tall, her face unreadable. The prosecutor's voice rang sharp. This woman, slave to the Whitfield estate, did willfully set fire to her mistress's house, murdering Mistress Margaret Whitfield, wife to a most honorable planter. Gasps rippled. The prosecutor's hand swept toward Jonas, seated trembling in the witness stand. Tell them what you saw, boy. Jonas licked his lips, voice cracking. I heard her. I saw her with Kwaku by the sheds. She swore vengeance. She lit the fire. The court murmured approval. Jonas gripped the railing, knuckles white. His eyes flicked once toward Lucia. She stared back, silent, a look that burned colder than flame. Ellen was brought in next, questioned sharply. She bowed her head, voice soft. I heard nothing. I saw nothing. Her lullaby clung to her lips but did not pass them. Sarah was called. The gallery buzzed. She looked thinner, her hands twisting in her skirts. Speak, the judge commanded. Her voice shook. I know nothing. I served, I obeyed. That is all, the court hissed with disappointment. Sarah's eyes met Lucia's for one heartbeat, then dropped. She was dismissed, disappearing into anonymity before chains could claim her too. Henry Whitfield was summoned. He stumbled forward, stinking of brandy. His face sagged with grief and exhaustion. Do you swear to tell the truth? His laugh was bitter. Truth? My truth died with my Margaret. What truth do you want from me? The prosecutor pressed. Did you suspect rebellion among the slaves? Henry shook his head. Suspect. It's always there. You chain a man, you whip him, you starve him, you think he won't dream of fire? The gallery erupted in shouts. The judge pounded his gavel. Henry slumped back, muttering, They've taken everything. Lucia's turn came. She was asked again and again, did she confess? Did she repent? Did she name her accomplices? She said nothing. The judge leaned forward, voice hard. You will hang for this woman. Do you not fear damnation? Lucia lifted her chin, eyes steady. I fear nothing but silence, and I will not be silent. The courtroom stirred. Her voice carried, clear, unshaken. She burned my child. I burned her. That is all. The judge paled, pounding his gavel. Enough! Sentence her to death. The gallery roared approval. In the slave quarters of Kingston, whispers grew. Ellen hummed the lullaby while rocking Amara, her song soft as wind through cane. Children learned it, passed it along. It became more than a cradle song. It was a code. When you hear the fire song, they whispered, remember Lucia. Some said she had walked into the fire herself and never burned. Others swore her scar had glowed like iron when she raised her hand in court. Some said Kwaku's spirit had appeared in the flames behind her, smiling. The overseers tried to stamp out the song, forbidding it in the fields. But the melody clung to lips, soft as breath, hidden in prayer, woven into work songs. On the day of execution, a crowd gathered at Kingston Square. The gallows stood stark against the sky, the rope swinging gently in the breeze. Lucia was brought forth, chains heavy, her scar exposed. The crowd jeered, but among the enslaved, silence fell. She walked with measured steps, eyes fixed ahead. A priest mumbled last rites, but she turned her face away. Save your prayers. God already judged her. He will judge you. The hangman asked if she had last words. Lucia's gaze swept the crowd, landing on Jonas. His face was pale, eyes wide, her voice carried clear. "You can chain my body. You cannot chain the fire. Remember that." The trapdoor fell. The rope snapped taut. But in the silence that followed, someone hummed a lullaby. Then another joint. Soon the melody spread, soft, defiant, unstoppable. The soldiers shifted uneasily. The planters scowled. The song of fire had taken root. That night, in the slave quarters, Ellen sang the lullaby to Amara once more. Her voice was low, but the words burned like coals. "Sleep, little one. Sleep through the chains. The fire is coming. The fire remembers." And in whispers across Jamaica the tale began. The woman who burned her mistress alive, who faced the gallows with silence and fire in her eyes. Lucia was gone, but her fire remained. The fire died. The gallows fell silent, but the story refused to rest. It traveled like smoke, slipping through cracks, carried by ships whispered on the wind. Father Andre sat in his parish house by candlelight, quill scratching against parchment. His letters spoke of Jamaica, of sugar and cruelty, of souls caught between chains and fire. And in the margins, carefully hidden, he wrote of her. There was a woman called Lucia. She bore a scar across her wrist, a mark of bondage. Her child was burned by the mistress, and she answered in kind. "I cannot condemn her wholly, for she burned against an injustice greater than law." The letter slipped into the hands of a sailor bound for France. In taverns of Marseille and Bordeaux, the tale grew. She was a witch, one sailor boasted, ale spilling down his beard. Lit the house with a glance, cursed the mistress so her rosary melted into her skin. Another swore she called down African spirits, that flames danced like soldiers around her. The French listened, wide-eyed, half-believing, half-terrified. The tale of La Sorcière des Flammes spread from port to port, until Lucia's fire was whispered in languages she had never heard. In England, the Whitfield name was wrapped in mourning cloth. Letters told of Margaret's tragic death in a slave rebellion. Her body burned in loyalty to her husband's estate. Portraits of her, pale and noble, hung in London drawing rooms. Society women sighed, how cruel, how savage that such a lady should perish in such barbarity. Margaret was remembered as martyr. Henry drank himself to ruin, muttering her name until he too was forgotten. But among planters, her death was warning, whispered behind closed doors, "Beware your slaves." They dream of fire, yet in the cane fields, another memory lived. Children learned the lullaby from Ellen, who sang as she rocked Amara on nights heavy with moonlight. "Sleep, little one, sleep through the chains. The fire is coming. The fire remembers." The melody threaded itself into work songs, into rhythms of machetes cutting cane, into prayers whispered under breath. It was not sung loudly. It did not need to be. Every heart that carried it knew its meaning. Some said Lucia had not died at the gallows at all, that when the rope snapped, her body vanished in smoke, that she had returned to the cane fields, watching with eyes like embers, waiting for the next fire. Mothers told their children, "If you see sparks in the night, it is Lucia walking." Others believed Margaret's ghost wandered instead, her burned hands clutching a melted rosary, wailing through the plantations, hunting the woman who set her aflame. Two ghosts haunted Jamaica, one in chains of silver, one in chains of fire. Years passed. The story shifted with every tongue that carried it. To some, Lucia was vengeance incarnate, proof that the enslaved could strike back. To others, she was a caution, the devil's handmaid, a specter of chaos. But for the enslaved, her fire was hope. A story that reminded them that cruelty was not eternal, that even a scarred woman with nothing could burn down a mistress with everything. And so, in the fields, they whispered her name not with fear, but with reverence. Lucia, not a witch, not a devil, the fire that remembered. History remembers wars, kings, treaties, crowns. Yet often, it is a lullaby that endures longer than a throne. Lucia's life was bound in iron, her body scarred by chains, her voice stifled by law. By every measure of her world, she was powerless. And yet, one act of fire carved her name deeper into memory than any planter's wealth. A lullaby became a war cry. A scar became a covenant. One woman's fire burned brighter than her chains. The colonists called her savage. The courts called her criminal. England called Margaret a martyr. But in the quarters, where truth was sung in whispers, they called Lucia the fire that remembers. What is justice when the law defends cruelty? What is rebellion when survival itself is treason? These questions are older than Lucia and will outlive us all. Some say she perished at the gallows. Others believe she walked into the flames and never burned. But beyond the debate, a truth remains. Her story was not silenced. It was carried in lullabies, in whispers, in secret songs passed from mother to child. And this is the weight of memory. No rope can hang it. No chain can bind it. No fire can consume it. Lucia's fire was not only destruction, it was revelation. A blaze that stripped away lies, left truth raw and undeniable. In every age, there are those who stand with chains on their wrists and fire in their hearts. And history must ask, do we name them criminals or do we name them free? If you were Lucia, watching your child's flesh blister under a candle, what would you do? Would you forgive? Would you endure, bow your head, and trust that justice lies beyond this world? Or would you burn it all down? These are not questions buried in the past. They reach into the present, asking what any of us would sacrifice, what any of us would risk when cruelty dares to touch the innocent. Lucia's chains are gone, her gallows rotted, her ashes scattered, but her fire lingers in every lullaby of resistance, in every whispered story of those who refuse to remain silent. And now I leave it with you. If you believe stories like this must be remembered, if you believe forgotten voices deserve to be heard, then join us. Subscribe to the channel so that the next tale of history's hidden fires finds you. Share this story so others can ask themselves the same question. And in the comments, tell us, when faced with the cruelty Lucia faced, would you forgive or would you set the world ablaze? The choice, as always, is yours.